I drank a lot. I drank a lot. I'm a big boy. Recollections from Invasion of the Dinosaurs is that it's fucking long. I don't want to be such a stickler baby about runtimes, otherwise I'll be called a millennial attention span idiot again. I could watch a whole mini-series in the space of one 6-part Pertwee serial. And I did, actually, yesterday. I watched all of Time Wasters beginning to end, and it was the exact same runtime of Invasion of the goddamn Dinosaurs. People on Twitter shouted at me for not liking it, although I did phrase it like, it fucking sucks, and then I called someone a smelly ass. I could have been better. I regret my behaviour deeply. So I got the job. I'm a video editor now for a big company who helped propel PewDiePie of all people into where he is today. Oh man. It's really very strange and inspired this massive hangover. So I think today's episode is very fitting because it's not a big social commentary and it's not a disgusting creature feature, gothic horror. It's a comfort place. It's Shada. Sam, you're a massive Douglas Adams fan. Why have you never watched Shada in any of its forms? Because I felt so content and happy with the novelisation, the Gareth Roberts one. I thought that was so good. I was content. I had experienced the story in its best form. But the animated version came out a couple years ago. I was so unimpressed with the animation. I have a love-hate relationship with it, so I never got around to actually purchasing the damn thing. But it's on BritBox. Shada, in theory, works for me because it's the most Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy the classic series ever gets, and it's actually around the same time Douglas Adams is telling stories about the Cricket Men, which is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy being very Doctor Who in my opinion, maybe too much so. Sometimes they cross over, sometimes they don't. Tom Baker really sells it, which is why I love Shada. The animated sections are really strange. It's the most Captain Pugwash the Doctor Who's looked for a hot minute. The actual animation is fine for the most part, but I hate this style. I think most people regard Shada as a bit of a slog. This article called it a plodder. It's back and it's still just a plodder. That's so reductive. I get it if you feel inundated with the barrage of Shada adaptations, but you only need to listen to one of them. And honestly, I wouldn't pick the TV version. Not a chance. I am shooting the enemy monster in the groin, master. When Doctor Who makes me feel warm and safe, I just find myself thinking of all the other Doctor Who stories I want to watch with my day. I'm probably going to take a break halfway through this and watch the pilot. Or something, I don't know. Eaters of Light. I'm in an Eaters of Light mood. Look at this dude. Overall, Shada's good. It's Shada. It's very back heavy. Once you get onto that ship, once you're on Skagra's ship, get ready to not leave it for 3-4 parts. Which is strange because it seems like such a cheap story. I think they blew all the budget on the location shooting, but you could chop off 2 episodes very handily at the end there. The story is so unique, it could have only been written by Adams. I prefer it in prose. I think it needed like one more key location. Let's have Skagra's ship land somewhere and then we do the finale there. Please. Because ship corridors are not a favourite. But it's still one of the most beloved Brits of all time, delivering a story with his unmistakable voice. Doctor Who just for once have good animation challenge. BBC hire animators challenge. Good morning, it is Friday, my dudes. Fifth Doctor, Peter Davison. How could you miss any of his stories when you grew up on him as a young boy, Samuel? I don't know. Maybe they hadn't released on DVD yet. In all fairness, Fort to Doomsday is hardly the most exciting story. It's very easy to skip. The only things I really know about it are a couple scenes, terrible cliffhangers, and Peter Davison is fresh-faced and very charming in it. Then there's the Toads.
Already left. This is enlightenment. That's weird.
That's hardly a cliffhanger, guys. You just introduced two characters.
Then for some reason, Adric just brings up the Master. For seemingly no reason, the episode stops to talk about who is this Master? And you're like, oh, hang on, if I hadn't already got prior knowledge of this, that'd be a dead ringer that the Frogman is the Master. But he isn't. I know he isn't. This is a bizarre episode.
Somewhere in space, Peter Davison's face is flying at a planet at high velocity. This is just a bit of a laugh along this one, isn't it? Like, I'm engaged. I'm probably the most engaged out of any of the stories I've watched so far in this marathon. But this would be a great one to put on with friends and roast, I think. Don't let me convince you it's bad or anything. I mean it in the best possible way. It's got that Russell T Davies end of the world vibe where everything is so genuinely strange. And not intentionally either. For all intents and purposes, they thought they were making a fully normal episode of Doctor Who. At one point, the Doctor says a saying about a Chinaman, and then looks embarrassed because there is an Asian man standing right next to him. The first of oddly multiple Asian comments the Fifth Doctor makes. Cancelled? Cancelled! Them's on Twitter trying to cancel Peter Davison now.
Heathrow, here we come.
I've heard that before.
Except Nissa never appeared the time curve indicator.
Doctor,
Yes, sir?
Give that woman an Oscar! She doesn't even care when she's passing out. For Doomsday, it's loud, it's bonkers, everybody is a hyper-exaggerated version of themselves. It's a great panto. I do like the gang though, even when they're bickering and infighting. It's the fact that they don't get to do too much else. That's why I think it's a real shame, but seeing Tegan and Adric shine and be young and incorrigible is, it takes me back to when I was a kid, and I liked those characters for very pure reasons. For a large portion of the episode, Adric is siding with the main frog villain. And I was really surprised that it wasn't a fake out. It wasn't part of like some trick to stay on his good side or like betray him at the last minute strategically. Adric was genuinely won over by a totalitarian autocrat monster. I wouldn't see other companions getting away with that. And then he's just brought into the TARDIS at the end. He's young and awful. There's this amazing part where he takes him to the side and goes, right, now listen here, you young idiot. And I'm like, oh my word. It's hilarious and I laughed out loud, but also more charming and human than a lot of the 80s Doctor Who is. I liked it. Season 19 remains a guilty pleasure. Put this one off till the very last minute. I am ready to fall asleep. But then again, I've been ready to fall asleep all day, as last night I got my first COVID-19 vaccination. Today's story for the Sixth Doctor is the first one of his I ever saw, one Revelation of the Daleks. I owned this about a good decade ago before I traded it in. And it's just because half of the story isn't very good. My lasting memories seem to be of part 1, and the fact that Doctor and Peri are barely in it. Some people defend that like, oh, you get to enjoy Necros and take in this world and these characters. But I think it's just a poorly paced piece of TV, because they're not used to 45-minute scripts yet. So you've got a part 1 cliffhanger happening at the very middle of the story, which throws off the rest of the pacing. It's a story of duos. I remember there's lots of pairs of characters who just sort of mingle and just walk around the place. Very few Daleks. And I'll see if that memory was correct, I guess. I need to sleep. And this story might just be the one to do it. Oh, I forgot how pretty this one is. A little bit of location shooting goes a long way in classic Who. Hey, my baby. I think I'm around the money. It's so far a lot of snow, a lot of workplace bullying, and the Doctor and Peri walking to the plot. And sometimes you can have a little Dalek, a little flash of Dalek as a treat. As a kid, I used to think this was Nick Briggs. I don't know why. It's so funny that Davros is watching this radio show. I can't believe it. But this set is gorgeous. Why did I not appreciate this as a kid? And that's Revelation. Colin Baker doesn't really have a bad story to his name, except for that one, and that one. Oh, god damn it, that's half of his tenure. Revelation couldn't have existed in any other Doctor's run. I genuinely don't believe that 7th Doctor's era could get that grisly. I find it to be one of those stories where if you can hold out till the end, you do get rewarded with some good stuff, be it Dr. Davros interactions, some of Colin Baker's best acting in the role, and some good side characters whose stories really do pay off. You just have to do so much legwork to get there. Off to bed I go. Tomorrow, we finish Classic Who. Honestly, I'm going to take it back to the very beginning. This was the book that started my entire love and fascination with Classic Who. I got this in 2005 for Christmas, and this was a Bible. This is a massive coffee table book that will tell you just certain amounts of every classic serial, but never really enough. And it was because of that it was more like a mystery to decode than anything. So when all the DVDs were coming out, I got into some of them, but for me, it's all of these images just plastered themselves into my head. I was just drawing Nicholas Courtney with an eye patch and Silurians for basically forever. It only went up to Parting of the Ways, and the final page is The Future Series 2, which makes me feel positively ancient. But yeah, I owe this book a lot. It's kind of ensured 15 years of fandom. Jesus. And now it's all over. But something I've always valued about this series in particular is that there is no sense of completionism for me. It's a fruitless task. You're not going to feel happy by the end of it because you'd have to be absorbing so much a day in terms of comics, books, TV and audio. It'd be a nightmare. And even if you did, it would be joyless and completely miss the point. I just ran out. Today's story is Paradise Towers. A story I have seen, but I've forgotten everything about, because even when I was making the 7th Doctor retrospective, I didn't realise just how much I was confusing it with the Happiness Patrol and parts of Dragonfire. They all kind of bled into each other. Don't ask. I've never lived in a high-rise, but I understand its significance. It's kind of an emblem of everything wrong with Tory corruption in the previous 30, 40 years. The high-rise, for tragic reasons, stays more relevant than ever. Let's hope Doctor Who and pals can defeat the evil pool cleaners. And I guess there'll be some political commentary along the way. Okay, you know what? It's coming back to me. Maybe I didn't need to rewatch this. Maybe I remember it just fine.
Do we?
I think this story just came out in the wrong season, because this season can't do anything earnestly. It's all so cheesy and tacky. Which is right if you give them the right stories. I feel like this could have been more. I think it deserved better so far. It's a really cool environment, but the characters, every member of the supporting cast completely drops the ball in my opinion. Either monstrously hamming it up, or just not bringing enough to the table. Lots of them are just weak, and it makes the entire story feel really lame when it's it's actually a political story with a lot of bite. It shouldn't be feeling lame and weak. I don't know. I'm being petty at this point.
Hello, my pet boy. Did you enjoy your night's caretaker?
How do I have no recollection of
Daddy's always
that?
sure you get a good supply.
You'd think a guy would remember that.
Caretaker, that's his main job. While we're on the subject, Daddy's got...
For the record, I'm enjoying it a lot more than before. I'm not going to call it good yet, but it's definitely entertaining in that 1980s kids show way. The second Baker goes, it becomes a full out-and-out kid show, and it's actually really good at it, because I remember how much of an effect it had on me when I was a kid. I think the key to Doctor Who fandom, especially with the classic series, is just to accept and embrace everything for what they are, rather than what you want them to be, or a traditional piece of good science fiction or television. Imagine Pex as a companion, that's all I'm gonna say. And that pretty much says all my problems with this story. But it's fun. Let's just double check. So I actually have one more left. No, my video failed. After all this, motherfucker forgot the crotons. I don't know what I'm more mad about, the fact that this video was in vain and I failed in my marathon, or that I finally have to watch the crotons. Oh no! Maybe I'll never watch it. Maybe I can never call myself a completionist if I just hold off on the crotons and I never see it. I'll be on my deathbed and I'll be like, bring me part 1 of the crotons. And then I realise, oh wow, this really wasn't worth amping up at all. That horrible vision. I don't know. But as we all know, the story never ends. Oh, sorry, there's like a bug in my eye. Gross.